Hey, look, Rob, there's the deep end of the pool.
Good thing I know how to swim. What is up, guys? Damn, it is episode 63 of the Update Log. I'm Rob, your host. With me is Greg, my co-host for tonight. Lots been going on. Lots been going on. In the industry. For those of you who may or may not be aware, Gen Con's over. Gen Con is over. Finished what, Sunday? Yep.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't go this year, and after I made the decision, hey, I'm not going, is when I started getting the questions about whether I was going to be there or not. Like,
Yeah. I think
damn
you
it.
said like what, like 3 days before or something.
Mm,
Yeah. So it happens. Sometimes you get some last minute like, hey, it's like, oh yeah, a little too late now, guys.
already made the decision.
Um,
Don't have hotel rooms. Don't have plans to travel. I think I'm just gonna set this one out.
yeah. For those of you who are ever looking to go to Gen Con, like you have to have your plan set in place about 6 months, if not more, in advance, because hotels go out quick. Um, like plan accordingly, please. But it is fun. I do recommend anyone who is a fan of TTRPGs or games in general, go at least once. I had the pleasure of going once when I worked with Kingdom Death Monster. Adam, if you ever hear this, it was a great experience, man. Um, and I haven't been back since, but I do have plans to go back at some point in the near future because it's worth it. So Gen Con is officially finished. WotC and the new 2024 Player's Handbook were showcased at Gen Con. Also, the creative embargo was lifted August 1st, according to a lot of D&D creators. Um, although WotC kind of stuck their foot in their mouths. And we're going to touch on this kind of real quick here, only because it's pertinent to what we do, and it's pertinent to I feel like what a lot of content creators are doing and dealing with. Some more than others, but there was a couple of content creators who were given free copies of uh, the 2024 Player's Handbook. Slowfers. Welcome in, buddy.
Hey,
I think I
Sluffers.
think
Hope you're doing well as well. Thank you for joining us.
yeah. Welcome in. um, so yep. So anyway, yeah. A bunch of content creators. Jordan the PH is silent. Bob the World Builder. Treant Monk. These are all guys. If you're keeping tabs on TTRPGs, Dungeon Craft, another dude guy who he was actually at Gen Con. These are all individuals who create, uh, some of them primarily D&D content, but all of them uh, an assortment of TTRPG content that they report on. But they all had to deal with the embargo that was put forth by WotC and D&D, respectively, on the 2024 edition of the Player's Handbook. And unfortunately, after the embargo was lifted, Jordan PH got hit. His YouTube channel got hit with a copyright strike. And the reason why I'm bringing it up and why it's important is because on the one side, on the creative side, guys like us, Jordan PH, all those guys, make sure you're reading your contracts. Make sure you're sticking to those contracts so you don't have
Well, if they have a
that issue.
contract.
Yeah, hopefully they do. Hopefully you're not just taking things at like face value, like, yeah, sure, do this, and this. You
Right.
gotta make sure they have a contract that clearly outlines what you can and can't talk about, what you can and can't show. Um, Now that situation with Jordan has been since resolved. Um, I believe WotC issued an apology and have rescinded that copyright strike against his channel.
Well,
However,
t-
unfortunately for WotC, the damage is done.
Tip,
But go
tip,
ahead, Greg.
well, typically those. So when you get preview copies of things, the typical way that works is you'll get a list of the do's and don'ts. So you can,
Mhm.
we prefer that you only show this, or you only talk about this chapter or this piece of the material. Typically, I think this here lately, it's been very very different. I mean, even we've even had a little bit of experience with not with
Yeah,
WotC,
yeah, we
but
have.
it's
Yeah.
and it's did they actually give them clear guidelines as to what the expectation was? Because I'm not sure that they did. So
Well, not only that, and again, this is, guys, just take this with a grain of salt, speculation. We were not, present for any of this stuff. Um, so there is that, but also, you know, the argument can be made they might not have very well given them clear uh, guidelines, because the creators that I mentioned, they're not new. They're not they're not went behind the ears. They know what they're about. They know their craft, or else they wouldn't have gotten to where they're at. So to say that he didn't read it or he didn't understand it, you're pulling at straws there. Um, but it could be where WotC kind of dropped the ball, didn't give him clear guidelines, or they gave him clear guidelines and he followed it, and for some reason they still did it. Because I mean, we have experience with that too. When we're told one thing, we do the thing, and then it comes out that that was not the thing. So
it
it happens.
right. Here's the thing. The dirty part about it is that the initiative was taken to go out and do the copyright hits
Mm,
versus because typically, first step in that is to get a cease and desist order, where the IP owner or company will reach out to you and tell you, hey, look, you gotta take this down, or whatever it happens to be. Um, is to my understanding that didn't happen. They just went out and started firing off copyright hits,
I
and
believe so. And again, don't quote me on that. It could be that they did, and you know, maybe I'm misremembering or misinterpreting. But I agree with you on that one. I think it was just straight to the copyright piece. And here's the thing: the reason why the damage has already kind of been done, but on his end to a lesser degree, but mostly on WotC's end, is, for those of you who don't know, as a, let's say you're content creator on YouTube, if your channel is copyrighted 3 times, you have 3 strikes, and then your whole thing's deleted, gone. So it's a big deal when it happens, because that, for guys who have built their platforms, who use this as a way to make a living, that's your livelihood right there.
mm-hmm.
That's kind of at the mercy of someone else in a way. So you better believe, you better be very very careful what you're doing. But on WotC's end, they kind of shot themselves in the foot again, which they seem to be doing quite often. And again, I'm not here to shit on WotC or anything like that. They actually did a good job this time with the 2024 edition. Um, from what I've seen, from what I've heard from folks who have had more intimate knowledge on kind of that creative process, and what we're receiving, they listen to the community quite well, and they hit on a lot of pain points that people wanted addressed
Right.
in 24 edition. But the piece that really hurts them is a lot of creators, because of that copyright strike against Jordan, have gone back and removed a lot of the content that they made for the 2024 edition of the Player's Handbook. So that's people who aren't going to see the work that you did, who aren't going to get, a breakdown of what's coming down the pipe. That advertisement, because that's what it is. It's fucking advertising for your product, is now gone. So maybe WotC next time think before you act, and if it wasn't you directly, and if you have other people who are working on your behalf, make sure they understand how things work, because now you got egg on your face.
I
So
think
that's
I think by now they're pretty used to the egg on their face, though. That doesn't seem to
uh,
bother them a whole lot.
yeah.
They tend to do, just it's amazing. It's amazing the gaffes, I guess you could say. Just
Mm,
the mistakes that are made as we, starting out just with the OGL piece, rolling up to the introduction of what was first labeled as D&D 1. Now it's 2014,
yeah, it doesn't even
or
have like a
2024. Sorry.
yeah
Um,
2024. It doesn't like honestly, I'm calling it 5.5. That's my head canon. It's not going to change. Like that it is what it is, man. I'm not going to call it, you know, 2024. It's no. It's freaking. It's going to call it 5.5. Okay,
right.
call it a day. Um, with that said, uh, kind of the major topic of tonight's episode is, as the title suggests, stop killing games. Um, and that actually has a lot. We're gonna touch on quite a few things. But there's a lot to that. And first of all, Greg, if you could drop that link to the petition that's going on here,
Um, yeah, I mean we can do that, but unless you are in that country, you're not qualified to take
that's right.
advantage of that. So
Yeah. So
if you
for
like,
those of you who don't know, um, I'll drop it in in the chat anyway for folks who they can read through it. Although yes, if you're not in the EU, it's really not going to matter to you, or rather, you can't really participate in this particular petition um, or initiative as it's being called. So, Stop Killing Games is an initiative that was started by folks in the EU to essentially protect games that are no longer being, um, how do I put this, serviced. They're no longer, they're no longer receiving updates. Basically, games that, for all intents and purposes, are dead, um, or dying, even. Basically, to preserve the history of games, because we all know, we've all, you know, who've been paying attention, and even if you're just a casual game player, you can't tell me that you haven't heard where game companies are now, number one, going all digital. And what that means is there's no physical copies of games anymore. It's all digital download, and has been for quite a while. So it's not anything new. So there is that. But the issue is, and we've seen it over the last year, maybe a little more, but mostly last year, where games have been removed. One of the ones that comes to mind is The Crew, and I believe Sony was the one who had a hand in that, but went in and removed that from people's libraries. People who had paid money for the game no longer have access to it. So that's what this petition is trying to fight. Is trying to keep access to these games that may no longer be being updated, being serviced, from being completely just taken off the board. And had you asked me a couple months ago, I probably would have been all in on it. I'd be like, hell yeah, don't take my damn games. I paid money for that. But then I stopped to think, and I'll tell you what I think in a minute. But Greg, what's your thoughts on this? I know you probably read through the
I'm
petition.
I'm just
Um,
I'm just listening, man. I
no,
don't.
I won't want your opinion.
Well, I don't share some of the ideas that are put into that petition, and I mean, there's a lot of older games that I like,
Mm,
but I don't think this petition is very well thought out, and it's, when you like look at some of the people who are sponsoring this petition and the things that they have to say about it. I mean, the case that they make is not a good case at all. It's weak at
No.
best. And that's not to say that there are not issues. That's the thing. There are issues.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's just, it's about how you address those issues. I mean, we you cannot say that the gaming industry is not taken seriously. That's a bad.
I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar
Right.
industry.
It's wrong. It's just wrong. That's the. I mean, well, in
Multi-billion. I mean, it eclipses the film industry.
well,
Just to
well,
give you some context.
look at how many movies and blockbuster movies are based off of games, comic books, story in general.
Yep.
And there's a lot of money in the industry that's generated by those things, and the Punisher, Deadpool, all kinds of different things.
Yep.
Even the Walking Dead series. There's just so
Walking
much
Dead,
out there.
Uncharted.
So
Yeah, the Resident Evil movies and games.
so
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
anybody and especially people that are supposed to be connected to the industry, to stand up in front of an audience and say that people don't take this industry seriously. They're just
Apparently, government doesn't take it seriously, and it's like, no, I'm pretty sure they do.
well, they're very disconnected. That's my take
Yeah.
on it. They're more disconnected than what they're trying to say government is.
Oh, absolutely.
They just don't.
Absolutely.
There's something wrong there.
Yeah. So, and I agree with you. I don't agree with a number of these, of the parts in the petition myself, because, and here's the thing. Like I said, if you asked me a bit ago, I would have been all on board. But a couple things are pointed out at me, and a couple things that I realized. First of all, I agree that something needs to be done within the industry when it comes to single player games, and that's where I draw the line. Single player games where there does not need to be an online component. Now, as we've talked about this a number of times on the channel, but in the move to live service, a lot of companies now are moving to having their constituents be online even for single player games. Whether it's like you have to create an account, like perfect example is PlayStation Network account. You have to create a PlayStation Network account to play. I believe Ghost of Tsushima is one where it's a single player game. I haven't played it personally. I believe there are some online components to it. I fortunately don't know in what capacity exactly. I don't believe it's similar to say Elden Ring where you can actually play with other players, but I do believe there is some online, functionality there. Is it key to the gameplay? Is it key to the core gameplay loops and the game itself? I don't believe so. And using that as an example, again, using Ghost of Tsushima as an example, this petition should protect that game when it's finally said and done. When no long it's no when updates are no longer being pushed. Meaning, if I buy that game and um, studio stops making it or stops updating it, I should still be able to keep that game, whether on my local machine or held in a server somewhere else where I can re-download it when I want. It's a single player game. There's no multiplayer component at all. Meaning you don't have to host it on any live servers. There's no continuous updates that have to happen. None of that. So I believe games like that need to be protected because I paid for the damn game. Other than you making the game for me to play and giving me updates to at a certain point you're going to stop giving me updates. That's mine. Now the flip side of that is live service games, and that's where I had to kind of take a beat, think about it for a minute, and realize This petition wouldn't work for those because there's a lot that goes into a live service game, licensing fees being one of them, um, server management being another. And here's the thing, guys. At a certain point, whatever the game is, I mean, even the heavy hitters like Final Fantasy 14, World of Warcraft, you see a dip in player base after after time goes on. You see a dip in player base. Now, for those aforementioned games, fortunate enough, they have a large enough player base where even when it dips down, they're still in tens or hundreds of thousands of concurrent players, just because that's how large they are. But for a lot of games that are live service, they don't have the luxury of millions of subscribers and hundreds of thousands of people who play it on the daily basis. So when they see a dip, you can go to Helldivers 2 as a perfect example, where when it first came out, it was sitting at like over 250,000 concurrent players. And it was sitting at that for a bit, but now it's. I mean, I can look it up and give you.
Actually, I brought
I,
the Stop Killing Games petition up on screen.
oh, okay. I did not notice. There we go. But yeah, so right now, I'm just using Helldivers as an example. As of 23 minutes ago, there were 37,426 players on Helldivers 2. And that's a lot of people. Don't get it twisted. That's a lot of people. Compare that to its all-time peak. Excuse me, I misspoke. It was at 458,208 concurrent players. That's its peak. Go ahead, Greg. Yeah, you wanted to add something.
I'm good. Keep going, man.
All right. So when you're looking at those numbers, again, like don't compare this to WoW or Final Fantasy or any of those huge games. They're in a league of their own. But those are good numbers for Helldivers 2. Those are pretty solid numbers. However, that dips anymore, or in the case of the crew, people were up in arms about the crew getting taken down and getting removed from people's libraries, which I understand. Having something taken out of your library, it's kind of invasive. They definitely should have gone about it a different way. But if you look at the Steam charts, and again, this is just a Steam chart, so it doesn't account for folks who are logging in direct through a direct client. There were 5 people playing that game. 5. Now there might have been more through the direct client. I'll a generous estimate, we'll say 50 total people. 50 people. That doesn't. Those 50 people and them logging on doesn't even pay the bill. Pay to keep the server running.
But it says 12 million right here in the petition.
Yeah, no, that's was at probably at their peak, and that is honestly where that's also where it kind of pisses me off, because that's disingenuous. That's
very misleading.
They put that in such a way where if you didn't know nothing about the crew, nothing about the situation, you read, I was like, you got 12 million people playing this game. Why are they trying to take it away? What? No, 12 million people are not playing that game. 12 million people may own the game. How many of those people are actually actively playing the game?
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing: it was a live service game, meaning they had to pay to keep the lights on. They had to pay, developers for updates. There was money coming out to support that game. No money coming in.
The crew, I mean, honestly, as a game, it had a pretty good run. I mean, it came out in 2014, so it's had a good 10-year run.
And there's been several updates, several sequels since then. Actually, one recently with 2023, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one in 2018 and one in 2023. And player shift happened for both of those updates, which, I mean, that's to be expected. I mean, because people that really enjoy the game, if it's something you really enjoy, you're not gonna just keep playing the same old base game. You're gonna move on to the next thing, in which typically is what happens.
Yep, absolutely, and that's what happened with this game. And you know what? I don't blame. Here's the thing: I don't blame them for shutting it down. Um, cost of doing business.
Hmm.
But I'd also, at the same time, understand the need for protecting games from getting deleted. Because how do I put this? It's important that our purchases matter. I mean, my purchases matter to me.
Hmm.
I buy something, I want to, I want to keep it in hand. I don't want someone capable of just going in and taking it from me, just because it's is hosted on their servers. So there definitely does need to be legislation put in play to protect, in my mind, for me, those single player games, those games that do not require online functionality to be enjoyed. But where that kind of line is drawn for me is at multiplayer, because you can't keep the lights on if you don't have the money to. It's that simple, you
Right.
know. And unfortunately, I mean, the Crew is a perfect example. They had licensing fees that they had to pay out for the cars that they were using for the game. Things like Lamborghini and Ferrari and stuff like that. They had to buy those licenses to showcase those cars in that game. That cost money. And I believe, from my research, they had it for I want to say 10 years. So I think up until they pulled it, they had paid for that long-term license, and then
Yeah.
it.
I don't think anybody really knows that for fact how long
Yeah,
that
yeah.
licensing. It's
And
assumed
again,
that it
I
was
don't
10
know.
years.
Yeah, I'm only assuming, only because the timing period, the timing piece. It seems like, okay, well, it might have been, it might have coincided with the reason why they decided to pull the game. But no, honestly, nobody was playing the game. No one was playing the game. So why keep it up? Now, and I'm going to play devil's advocate for a little bit here. In the case of online service games, as a company, what you could do, you could tell sell a license to that, because you have plenty of people who are willing, and avid fans who are willing, and we've seen it time and time again with private servers on games. And I know I've seen it, Greg. I think you've probably seen it,
Hmm.
where older games. I mean, for the longest time, World of Warcraft Classic had private servers before Blizzard decided to bring it back, bring back World of Warcraft Classic. For the longest time, there were private servers that they didn't make money. Yeah, that's one of the things, you can't make money off of it, or else you're stealing
Well,
content.
before the internet became mainstream, I mean, people ran private servers out of their homes,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
you'd have a secondary computer that you would turn into a server, and it run right off of that. People could connect to your server and then play
Mhm.
whatever, and a lot there that was huge for private sysops,
Oh yeah.
people designing games and putting it onto a computer and allowing others to connect and play. And for the most part, those were all free servers. So there were some that you had to pay a subscription to be a part of, um, but a lot of it was just honestly just playtesting. Somebody developing a new game,
Hmm.
so they would put the game on their own private server, so they had full
Usually friends got
control.
a key.
Right,
Yep.
they had full control over it, and they would let people play. And as people would play the game, they would see where things needed to change, where there were glitches, things like that. So the actual development of the game was pretty much live for a lot of your pre-internet. I mean, I'm talking like early '90s, late '80s, early '90s.
Yeah. Back
That's
back in the day.
yeah, that's just how it worked. Actually, I had a good friend of mine. Andrew Wyatt, who him and his dad ran their own private server. He was a software developer. His dad was, and that's what he did. He ran his own private server out of his home, and as he developed new products, he would put it on that server and allow people to connect and play for free. And basically just watch the play and collect data off of that, and then make adjustments to make the game better.
I mean, smart is smart. And here's the thing, now doing that has become. I'm not gonna say cheaper. I think it might be cheaper though. With increases in technology and memory management and all that jazz. I think it's probably cheaper, but it's now easier to do. So that as a company, I think that's something that should be put into this initiative. If they're really wanting to preserve, games as a whole, both single player and multiplayer, put that in the petition. Put that in the petition where, hey, if enough interest is shown by your constituents, by your player base to want to keep the game alive, perhaps a negotiating piece can be reached with these companies to.
If by chance, um, it would be a killer for the subscription based marketplace. And
That's probably why they won't do it.
but I mean, the whole reason why is because it completely de-incentivizes the devs, the studios, from making subscription based games. Because if I make this game now, and I don't know whether it's going to be successful or not. I hope it is, but now I put it up here, and everything has a life cycle to it, and it's only going to be successful for so long. And now, according to this law, because I put it up here, I now have to maintain it forever.
Exactly, and that's where I don't agree. That's where I don't agree. That's where, for me, it's this initiative isn't fair to the developers. It's not fair to the studios. And I know that might be mind blowing to the people who've listened to our discussions in the past, and how we talk about some of these larger studios. But I understand that we talk about the decisions that the higher ups make, not the on the ground developers. And those are the people who have to maintain all this, is the on the ground developers. So you're essentially asking them to maintain a game indefinitely just because you and your buddies want to play. Maybe, and that's maybe, because again, Greg is 100% right. Everything has a shelf life. Everything. And yeah, you might still play the game, but do you play it regularly, or do you pop in every couple of months?
Unless it's me, I'm going to live forever. So,
Of course you are. I mean, I hope you do. But I don't foresee that in your future.
No delusions of that. Thank you, but
yeah, I wouldn't want to live forever. Just get older. No, I'm good. I don't even want to get old now. But so that to me is one of the larger problems of this particular piece. But it's only in Europe right now. That is the only place that this actually kind of matters. So if you're in the UK, and this is something that you're interested, take a look at it. Maybe it's something you want to support, but be mindful that this affects the developers who are gonna, if this goes through, be forced to maintain these games. It's not necessarily right to them.
Yeah, it's definitely open to the individual to decide for yourself. I mean, we're sharing it because it's out there. We're not sharing it because we support it. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's there, and there are people who are backing this idea. So hey, that's up to you. If you feel very strongly that you know, there's older games that you're afraid are going to go away, subscription based games that require internet connectivity, and you want to try and stop them from going away or whatever the deal is. Then by all means, go for it. Especially if you're if you live in Europe, sign the petition. Personally, I am sad to see games die, but the thing about that is there's always going to be a new game.
Yeah, it's always going to be a new game.
And it's nostalgic, and the nostalgia piece is great. I love going back and playing some older games here and there. But there's always going to be a new game, and typically there's a lot of aspects of those games that just continuously get better. The idea, obviously we're in a dry spell right now because you don't really see a lot of really great new games that are coming out. There's a lot of new games coming out, but a lot of them are just not that great, with a few exceptions. But I would say overall, if you just look at it as a span of years, say even like
Mm.
let's say the last 20 years, you look at it. And I know there's a lot of people, a lot of gamers and whatnot out there that don't have that luxury of looking at it over the last 20 years, but the level of design, the effort, the story, the graphics, in all of the things that we come to enjoy is exponentially better over the last 20 years.
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt. There's no contest.
Mhm.
Absolutely no contest.
Yo, dudes, the Empire's pretty chill.
Hey, Brody.
Hey,
How you doing,
Brody.
brother?
Something.
Thank you, man. Thank you for the 14 months, not 14 day, 14-month streak, man. Much.
Whoa. And Streamlabs strikes. It's fantastic. Pull Rob back in. Okay. All right, so I think he's having some technical difficulties. Let's see. Oh, there he is. There he is. There you are, man.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think the internet decided to take a bit of a break.
Take a bit of a break.
So,
That
yeah,
did.
it's on his lunch break.
All right. So I blathered on for a couple of seconds while you were gone, and you're gone again.
Am I back?
Now you're back.
Okay. Jesus.
That'll be our stream for tonight, folks. Now we have a lot more content to cover, so
We do. There's quite a bit more to discuss.
kind of got hung up on the killing games discussion and that whole thing. So let me get a shout out here quick. Go ahead.
So it's actually a pretty good segue into one of the next pieces. One of our next topics of discussion, i.e., Bungie and what's going on with them.
They're dying.
I wouldn't say they're dying, but there is a situation going on at Bungie. So for those of you who play Destiny 2, or even Destiny, I think they're still running Destiny. Pretty sure they're still running Destiny. But Destiny 2 primarily. Bungie CEO Pete Parsons, excuse me. And again, so not that long ago, I believe it was in 2021, 2022. 2021, 2022, Bungie was bought by, or it might have been 2023. I can't remember. One of those 3 years, Bungie was purchased by Sony Entertainment as a standalone studio. Again, they're the guys that brought you primarily Destiny 2, and one of the greatest, if not the greatest, first-person shooters ever made, bar none. Smoothest, cleanest, gunplay of any of the games out there. I will die on that hill. And I've played a number of the first-person shooters out there right now. So, and Destiny 2 still has the cleanest gunplay, cleanest movement. Like it's not even a. Anyway, let me stop fanboying. Unfortunately, Bungie has gotten kind of caught up again in the layoffs that has been happening throughout the industry. And honestly, as industry-wide, I think we're up to like 20,000 layoffs total.
Yeah, maybe even a little bit more.
Yeah, probably a little bit more at this point. There are a significant amount of layovers over the last
Well, they
last year. Man, we're not even a year. Not even a year yet.
Not quite. Well,
Jesus.
the entertainment industry across the board in video games for sure have been hit really hard by economic conditions. We'll put it that way. I don't know if it's obviously that's the easy target to say, yeah, the economy is in the tank, so yeah, all these people are losing their jobs. There's probably more to it than just that, but yeah. So, Bungie.
So Bungie got caught up in the whole layoffs piece, laying off. I believe the actual total was over 300 people, but I do know at least 100, maybe 120 of them, 150 of them, were actually grabbed by Sony and put on some internal projects for Sony directly. However, 220 individuals were still let go. 2 of which were at the heart of Destiny 2. Luke Noseworthy, I believe, was one of them, and I'm trying to look up the other individual.
Yeah, it was 350 people were part of that force reduction. And I think it was 120 that were picked up by PlayStation. The other 230 are in the unemployment line.
Sorry, I totally had the names mixed up. It was Luke Smith and Mark Noseworthy. Well, I said Luke Noseworthy. Combined the two. So yeah, Luke Smith and Mark Noseworthy, both who have been with Bungie for a while. I believe since Destiny 1. Were amongst the individuals that go. They were also a significant amount of narrative leads that were let go, that were responsible for a lot of what the community would consider some of the greatest pieces of storytelling in the game itself. And which is ironic because if you look at its most recent expansion, which came out on June 4th of this year, The Final Shape, was well received by the community. I mean, it's considered one of the better ones, and it's definitely up there. People really liked it. Unfortunately, when it came to commercial success, it did not. Here's the thing: it didn't do bad, but it didn't do better than the one before. Which to me, and Greg, maybe you can answer this from a business perspective. Is that commonplace where you're going to hold, the next release of something to the standard of the one before?
Yes and no.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit more? Because to me, like on the one hand, I don't understand why they would hold, the final shape, sales wise, um, against the one before, which was called
Right.
Lightfall. I understand why they would hold that against, why they would compare the two. But if you dig deeper, Lightfall might have been a better expansion commercially, meaning they might have got more money back for that. But people fucking hated it.
Mhm.
Like critically, the player base hated that one. But the reverse is true for the final shape. It might not have done. And here's the thing: it wasn't bad, like monetarily. It made a good bit of money, but it didn't make as much money as Lightfall. So that's where maybe I'm having trouble really understanding. It's like, wait a minute, why? Like, so again, maybe you can answer that from a business standpoint of like, what's maybe the thought process there? Because it's not clicking for me.
It has a lot to do with the way a company does its budgeting. So, annually when you're looking at what you make in your projections for the following year, typically you're always going to project up. You're going to project for growth because you're not going to say, hey, we're gonna shrink as a company next year. That usually is a pretty bad sign, especially if you have investors involved, because the investors don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that,
Mm.
oh, my investment's going to be worth less next year. You're telling me it's going to be worth less next year, so I guess I better move my money then. Um, and that's, once you put those forecasts out there and you plan for, okay, we're going to project that we're going to do this much in sales. These are the projects that we have coming out, and the other piece to that is, I mean, you don't deliberately create something. You don't create something with the thought in your head that this is garbage and it's not going to do well.
Yeah.
I mean? When you create something, you always want to create whatever it is. The whole mind over matter piece to it. I mean, if you think that what you're putting out into the world is garbage, then you're right. It is.
Hmm.
Um, and if you think that what you're putting out is good, then it likely is going to resonate with some people. It may not be as good as you think it is. It may not resonate as much as you think it is, or you may get a pleasant surprise, and you put it out there, and bam, it's a big hit, and you're thinking, holy cow, this completely exceeded projections. Um, but typically speaking, when it comes to doing those forecasts, you're always going to project up. So you want your business to grow, so you're always going to project that it is going to grow. And then you base your entire financial structure for the following year off of those projections. And that's spend as well, because if you say you're gonna make $100 million, I'm just gonna throw some figures out there.
Yeah.
Say you're gonna make $100 million, and you're expecting, this industry is a little bit different, but I'm just gonna say a 30% profit. Okay, which, I mean, that's really good. Now a lot of these companies are doing way better than that, but 30 is really good. So you're figuring, all right, we're gonna make $30 million in profit. So we're gonna budget to spend 70 million. Okay. Um, Now let's say you have a 30% drop in revenue, which some of these companies have seen that, and more 30% drop in
Mm.
revenue. Well, at that point, you've got to you got to take another look at those budgeting figures, because that 30% drop in revenue wipes out all your profit. So now we're an unprofitable company. Um, Private companies can weather that a little bit differently, because they can literally decide to take a loss. And that happens. You have companies that run in cycles like that, where they may show on the books that they lost money for 2 or 3 quarters, maybe even 2 or 3 years, um, and then they have a really good year. It's just all in that corporate finance piece of how that works. And is it the ideal system when it comes to the employees, and how they're impacted? Even the customers, more or less long term, are going to be negatively impacted if you miss your projections. um, but what it really comes down to for me, I'll put it this way, and there's a common thing out there. A lot of companies talk about being family companies. Um, there's no, wow, there is no family company. Um, because you think about it this way: if you go into business with your family, okay, your brother, your uncle, your aunt, whatever, which one of them are you going to lay off first?
Probably my aunt. I don't want to lay off my mother or my brother. They're the closest to me. I got to deal with them. My aunt, I can ignore.
Okay, well that's telling. But the idea though is, if you're a family, you're going to do what you have to do to make sure that your family stays employed, gainfully employed. That's all part of being a family.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, if you really have to, you're forced into a decision-making piece where it's okay. Somebody has to go, or the whole thing goes. And then, yeah, all right. I mean, maybe whatever her name is
You out the door.
hey, you're the weakest link. You're out of here. But and you're probably going to handle that differently too. You're probably not going to send your aunt an email and say, "Hey, you're done."
Yeah, pack your shit, get the fuck out.
Right. You're probably going to have that's going to be a different conversation.
Yeah, you're gonna sit down and talk to them.
But a lot of these people, lately have been finding out that they don't have a job through some really, really
Social media.
Yeah. I open up my Facebook account and it says that my company laid off 2,000 people. Am I one of them? I mean, do I even go in today to find out, or what's the deal?
That's something that's also real. That's been going on for a while. I mean, that's absolutely wild to me that you're gonna lay off someone and not even have the common courtesy to be the first point of contact to let them know, hey, look, this is the situation. This is why it had to happen. They find out through social media.
It's definitely,
That's wild.
If that's the situation you're in, it's the right thing to do is to have, you know what I mean? There's an idea about leaving well that's out there when it comes to if you're going to leave a company. You leave well because you don't want to burn bridges on the way out. You want to make sure that you leave on good terms, and that I didn't screw your company over the final days and just give up on you. I gave you what I could give you. I gave you my best up until the last day, and that's leaving well.
Not only that, but for because I've heard that don't ever leave a company like that. Basically giving half-ass effort. Don't do that, because that also speaks to you as a person. Like, don't
it
if you're gonna
does.
leave, if you're gonna leave, either just leave, like, hey, look, that's it. Today's my last day, and have a clean cut. Or if you're gonna do the whole 2 weeks thing, come in today, even on the last day, like it's a normal work day. And when you're done, you're done. Because you don't know what situation you're going to be in
Right.
later on.
Well, for a lot of people, it depends on the situation they're in right now as well. And I mean, I've done both. Typically, for me, if I'm switching positions, I'm moving to a different company, I'll give at least a month notice. That's not always true. I have abruptly left a position before and just simply said, "Hey, yeah, I'm done." I have done that. It's not a comfortable. It's not fair. I can admit my mistake. It's not fair to the company. It's not really even fair to yourself, because you didn't give an opportunity to actually walk away from that situation feeling good about what you had accomplished there, what you had done there. And you also created a potential situation where the people there are going to resent you. And that's not saying that you ever want to go back to that. That's not the purpose behind it. The purpose behind it is not, worrying about, well, geez, I might want to come back here someday. It's really just about, being a good human being. We all have our moments where we're not the greatest. But yeah, leave well.
Yeah, we do.
If you have that choice and you can, handle the situation, leave well. Don't just abruptly quit and walk away. But
Yeah, definitely leave well.
on the
Go ahead.
on the other side of this, it's also important that the company doesn't just drop you like so much rubbish. And I think that's what
Oh
we've
yeah,
seen happening is these companies have just taken the easy way out and said, okay, you're done, goodbye. Or
yeah,
maybe not
yeah. We
even a
gotta.
goodbye, just hey,
Yeah, it's like
we turned all your stuff off and hope you get the hint. I mean,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
horrible. But
Especially like, and I just can't get over the fact that some of these developers have figured out that they were fired, not from their boss, not from the company themselves, but through social media. Meaning, you're telling me that Joe Blow who don't even work at the company knew I was fired before I did. What?
and even worse is when they smile in your face and shake your hand the day before.
Yeah, yeah, and that's
You
another thing
knew I
too.
was done, and you
Yeah,
didn't
you just
have
yeah,
you I don't know what to say about that. You just didn't have the common courtesy to just tell me, look,
just
things
be
are not
yeah to be
working
straight
out.
with it.
You know,
Yeah, that that is one of the things I mean that needs to change. Because if any of you guys have worked in the industry or are thinking of working in the industry, it's hard. It's not easy. It's hard. It's a lot of long hours, and it's and I hate to use this cliche, but it really is. It's a labor of love to work in any creative field, whether it's music, movies, games, art, writing. You gotta love what the fuck you do because it's shit like this is gonna happen. And even when you're working at a great company, you're gonna work a lot of long hours. You're gonna enjoy it, especially if you're enjoying what you're doing and you're enjoying the people around. You're gonna enjoy it, but work is still work. That's one thing that I never understood. You got people who are like, well, you do what you love every day of your life. You never be work. I'm like, I've done plenty of things that I've loved. It's still fucking work. It's still work, guys. Still gotta clock in, clock out. You're still tired at the end of that. Okay, you're just having more fun while you're doing it. Still work. Um,
maybe getting a sense of enjoyment out of what you do, or
yeah,
accomplishment. That's
yeah.
the most horrible thing is
Not to feel accomplished.
right to devote so much of yourself to something and not feel like it. There's no reciprocation. It's like you get nothing from it other than a paycheck. And yeah, some people are okay with that, but I think most of us want to feel like some sense of gratification that, hey, you know what, I actually I feel like I accomplished something. I feel like I really contributed something.
Yep. Sorry, I got some stuff on my glasses.
But yeah, that's the Bungie piece.
Well, that's not all the Bungie piece.
Oh, there's more.
The thing that sticks that
But wait,
has people riled
there's
up
more.
is not just the 220 people that were fired. Is okay. Is the fact that Pete Parsons spent $2.3 million on cars while these people were being fired. Now, again, let's pause, take that with a grain of salt. Now, I can't confirm this one way or another. I'm sure some people do have the inside scoop on it. I couldn't find a yay or nay either way. But sorry, English just left me. The general consensus is that, at least from my perspective, is that the money that was spent on these vehicles for himself was spent throughout his entire tenure. I find it hard to believe that these people were fired and then he went out and spent $2.3 million on cars. And the sad part is that's how it's being spun.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
without any evidence either to support or against it. And that bothers me. That's another thing that I've seen a lot coming up in the industry since we started doing the update log and looking at people, reporting in on these things, content creators. Stop spinning shit to be sensational. Is it a bad take? Is it a bad look on him that he spent $2.3 million on cars? Maybe. I'd say yay. It's kind of in the middle. Number one, why the hell is he getting paid enough money to spend $2.3 million on classic cars? That would be my first question. Is like, yeah, why are you making that much money? Meanwhile,
Because
you got
I'm
guys who
worth it.
is he though? That's the question. Is he
Hell,
really?
I don't know. I have no
Like, I
idea.
mean, those are the big questions we need to start asking. Are these CEOs, are these individuals really worth hundreds of millions of dollars? I mean, you could look at Bobby Kotick and whatnot. And here's the thing, and Greg, I know you can attest to this. Most CEOs don't make that kind of money.
No.
Most CEOs aren't sitting there making millions. So it's that insular piece right there.
Don't get me wrong.
Why?
Most of your people that are in a C-suite position in any you know any company that's more than I'm running this out of my garage. They're not hurting for money. They're not
Oh yeah.
knocking down millions, but they're definitely making 5 to 6 times what the average annual salary is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, don't get me wrong. Being at that level, if everything goes well, you're gonna pat on the back. If everything goes bad, well, it's on you. It's all on you. So
Just
I
think
understand
you're also
that
that guy.
piece.
You're also that guy whose job it is to tell those 350 people that they no longer work here.
Well, you'd think that, but I'm pretty sure a lot of them kind of pass it along to middle management to do that part.
But it's still you. That's
Yeah,
you're
you're still gonna get
the
blamed. You're still
right.
gonna get blamed for it.
You're the front man. You're the one who
Yeah,
made the mistake, whether you really decided that or not. You're responsible
yeah,
for it.
it's
It's
on
on
you.
your tenure. So
So I understand that aspect of things,
any
being
any
in charge.
any CEO who tries to stand up in front of people and say, "Yep, the company fucked up, but it's not my fault," they're
You
not.
get laughed off stage.
Well, they definitely are in the wrong position. That's not part of the job.
It's totally your fault, one way or another. It was a decision you either
Yo,
made or didn't make.
dudes, the Empire's pretty
So
chill.
be
Maybe you
mindful
could
of it.
like join
Hey,
So
or
here's the
Harper.
thing.
something.
Hey, thank you for the 15 months, Harper. Thank you for the 15 months. Um, but kind of can keep what I was saying. I get, that things fall on the CEO show, but when it comes right down to it, they're not the ones making the game. You got the developers, the guys in the trenches doing that. So is he worth the amount of money that he was making to make, to spend $2.3 million on cars? I don't know. That is a situation within the industry that does need to change, where you got some of these CEOs, either in Bobby Kotick's case, paying themselves, which that shit blows my mind. He was paying himself hundreds of millions of dollars as a bonus every year. Meanwhile, you have people struggling to make ends meet. That shit blows my fucking mind. But even if Parsons wasn't paying himself the money, he was still getting paid that amount of money. And I think that studios, y'all really need to look at your compensation package. That's ridiculous. That's a little ridiculous here.
Yeah, it's a little low. You're right. I mean, you know,
Yeah, add a couple zeros. It's a
that guy
little
over there is making
ridiculous.
50 million, and I'm only making 2. I mean, come on, what
Come
the
on,
hell?
yeah, pump them numbers up, man. Jesus. But yeah, y'all need, again, just my personal opinion. Y'all need to look y'all need to look in house, because there's something wrong there. But on the other point I was trying to make is people reporting in on that kind of stuff, and reporting in on same thing that we do. We report in on issues going on in the industry. Do your due diligence, and really either try and get the sources, get accurate source verification, or make sure you ain't spending like Homeboy just went out and bought $2.3 million worth of cars after he laid off 220 people. Because honestly, that's the general thing that's going around. That's the
Well,
general feeling going around. And here's the thing: I'm not saying he didn't. I'm not saying he couldn't have done that. Could he very well have fired 220 people that went home the next day, said, "Hey, I'm gonna buy some cars"? He could have. He very well could have. I just highly doubt that's how it went down. Just highly doubt that's how it went down.
I
So
hope that's not. I really
yeah,
sincerely hope that's not.
I really do. I really do because
I
if
don't know,
not,
but I want to believe that people are not quite that crass. That they're
I
gonna,
mean, if it did go down like that, Parsons,
yeah,
shame on you.
I'm not gonna make my bonus this year, so you 200 people have to go so I can get my.
Damn, that would be cold.
Good
But
luck. I mean,
yeah, good luck, guys. I'm gonna go buy me some cards now. Woo.
I wish you the best.
Yeah. As he drives away in his new vintage '69 Ferrari. Yeah, I hope not. I hope not. Unfortunately, though, again, we were kind of joking on that. It's not a joke. 220 people lost their jobs and are now, struggling out there looking for work in a market that's increasingly becoming much more and more lean. I mean, again, the throughout the entire gaming industry, been over 20,000 layoffs. So it's things are tough across the board. So to those individuals who were let go, I wish you guys all the best. And to studios out there, whether you're indie, double A, or even other AAA studios, the market just got a lot more richer with fantastic talent. Start
Yeah, and
looking.
you can get them cheap because they get a job.
I have to listen to Greg. Pay them what they're worth. Okay, pay them what they're worth. uh, but yeah. So and unfortunately, Bungie is even with the success of Final Shape, it's looking like Sony may be taking a more direct hand with Bungie. Where, for those of you who know, when Sony acquired Bungie, they did so with a hands-off approach. They said, "Hey, you guys, run things your way." It's seeming like that's about to change with a lot of the issues going on at Bungie as a studio that Sony may be stepping in. So we're gonna kind of keep an ear out on that and see what happens there. I wish everybody the best. I wish Bungie the best. I wish the 220 individuals who were let go the best, because Bungie, I'm a huge fan of Destiny. I played Destiny 1 when it came out. Played Destiny 2 when it came out. I still play Destiny 2. And it is a very, very good game, very, very good story, very well made, and it deserves the accolades that it's gotten. And hopefully things will kind of turn around for Bungie and the studio as a whole.
I'm not going to follow that up with anything negative.
Oh, I know. You wish them. I mean, you wish them the best too. I know you, Greg. We want the people who are out there wanting to make the games to be able to make the games. And unfortunately, there's a lot going on right now, both within the industry and externally, that are making that shit difficult.
Mm-hmm.
You got a lot of individuals who, at whatever level, who have made decisions that I would deem short-sighted, looking for short-term gain, when anyone in any creative space can tell you it's the long term. It's a long term where you're really going to get that payback.
Well, in the the market, in banning something catastrophic happening. I mean, the market is going to come back.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah. The market,
right? Don't entirely look at this situation as all doom and gloom. It's rough. It's absolutely rough, but it also represents a huge amount of opportunity for those who are those who are willing, and also those who are willing to take the risk. Lots of opportunity out there with all of the even the AAA projects that are being canceled, things that are just being taken completely off the docket to go in for launch. There's going to be a big void for games, and there's a lot of games that have come out over the last year, but let's if you really look at it seriously, not many of those games are all that great.
No.
So there's a huge void. There's a huge opportunity there for people, and then you also look at the technology that is still growing. Not that I'm not promoting AI in this case, but I mean, it literally is a situation where just about anybody can go produce a game. It may not be a great game, but I mean,
Tools are out there, man.
they are. They're there.
Tools, the communities, the resources to learn. YouTube. Go fucking YouTube. They had so many tutorials on Godot, Unreal, Unity, programming languages. I mean, the sky's the limit. You just got to sit down and put the time in.
And if you have the capability to do that, if you have the time, the resources to be able to do that, go do it. Go
Yeah,
make something great and put it out there.
Don't sit there and think you need the talent. You need to go to school for it. That's bullshit.
You're not trying, right? Don't try and make the next Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
But
just make something.
Make something, right?
Yeah, fuck it. It could be a Mario clone. Just make it. I can't tell you how many times.
I guess I should be clear. I'm not telling you to go make something that sucks. Okay, I just want to. That's not what I'm telling you to do.
That's Greg's subjective opinion. Okay, if you want to make a game where the entire premise is you just flipping burgers, go do that.
Well, there are games out there like the phone app games that do exactly that.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? This is a tangent. I know. But you know how many games out there like Power Wash Simulator or there's this game called Factoria, I think, or Factorium.
Goat Simulator.
Literally, yeah. What was it? What?
Goat Simulator.
Oh yeah, goats like this. These games that people love to play called fucking goats. Like what the heck?
Was that really
shit?
Right? Was that really ever on your bucket list? Your life's ambition was to know what it was like to be a goat. I mean,
maybe for some people, barely. Or bread. So I think it was like slice of bread, or my life as a piece of bread, or some shit. Where you live your life as a piece of toast.
My life is a banana.
No, life is a banana, or Stray. Actually, Stray's a beautiful looking game. You play as a stray cat. That beautiful looking game though. So
Stray's a little bit addictive, by the way. But yeah.
Have you played it?
I've watched a couple people play that, and I haven't actually played it myself, but it does have an addictive quality to it. Even watching it.
You were grabbed when people were playing.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. I've heard that before. But yeah, go out there and make something. And don't think you have to be talented or have the.
Hey, welcome in.
Welcome in, Leticia Maxey. Thank you for that. But yeah, just go out there and make some damn games, because
absolutely
we need more of that. We need more people. We need people making more games. We need folks out there doing things.
Variety is the spice of life.
Yeah, we do need variety. But that said,
on to the next thing. My favorite thing. My favorite thing. No.
What's your favorite thing?
Well, you know who I love to pick on. I mean,
is it WotC? Because that's one of them.
Oh, okay. Well, wherever you want to go, we'll go there.
Okay. Well, we could start there. We can. Well, we talked about them earlier. The guys who I was going to bring up is Ubisoft. Ubisoft unfortunately put their foot in their mouths again and got caught apparently bribing creators. So
they missed me. I mean, I'm here. You can give me money. I'm good.
And this is primarily folks who are reviewing the Star Wars Outlaws game. Apparently, you had creators who were flown out to, I believe it was either Disneyland or Disney World, one of the two, as incentive for positive reviews on the game. And here's the thing, unfortunately, this is not new. Unfortunately, this is this practice is not something that is unexpected. It's been happening for a while. I mean, the GamerGate situation is a perfect example of that.
I'm guessing they don't want to bribe me because I mean I would take their bribe, but that's not a guarantee that they're going to get a positive review. So,
No, and that's probably why they wouldn't bribe you. Like
go
we
figure.
can't count on this guy. And here's the thing,
Hey, you want a
unfortunately
good
for
review? You make something good. That's how that works.
yeah, right. It's wild. Make something good, you get a good review.
Right.
Not pay me a bunch of money.
Bribe or no bribe, make something good, get a good review.
Yeah.
Bribes help
Yep.
though. I'm not opposed. You know.
Greg's just joking, guys. Don't take it seriously.
Am I?
But
though?
I hope so, man. We don't need to be lumped in with those individuals, please. But again, this is nothing new. Where you got these folks who are basically getting paid to give a particular review on the game. And again, it was Star Wars Outlaws, where creators were basically getting paid to play ball, and unfortunately, they kind of have to. Not saying they should, but and the reason why I say they kind of have to is because unfortunately, if they give bad reviews, they kind of get blacklisted. Not only from that particular company that's
So what you're saying is you have to play ball if you want to keep getting paid. Is that?
essentially, yeah,
Yeah.
in that space, yeah. Now I'm not saying everybody's doing it, and fortunately enough, it's being brought to light, so it's not as commonplace. But that causes us as consumers that's on us now to look closer at not only the folks that we watch that are reviewing the games, but also the studios. And here's this thing: fucking Ubisoft has been kicking themselves in the face for a while now. So I don't even feel bad that they are getting called out on this. I don't feel bad at all that they're catching flack for this, because first of all, how fucking dare you? Like honestly, how dare you? That's fucking disgusting. If your game is ass, first of all, make a better fucking game. Secondly, take it on the chin and learn something from it.
Tell us
Don't
how you
sit there
really
and be like,
feel.
it's bullshit. It's fucking. I'm sorry, it's
It is.
bullshit.
I'm
Bullshit.
on.
It's like, look, man, make a better game. Don't be sitting there and be like, oh, with what was it, Skull and Bones, oh, we made the first quadrant. No, you didn't. You didn't make shit. You made a piece of crap that people fucking hate. Like, just make better games. Stop paying for good reviews.
I'm sure there's somebody out there that likes the game, but
Probably. And again, I'm not going to say objective because I haven't played it yet. I'm not going to say it's a bad game, but it's kind of telling if you have to pay reviewers to review positively on your game. That means you knew before you released it that it wasn't up to snuff. So, or at least there might have been a hint that it wasn't up to snuff.
Well, it's easy to assume that. It's easy to assume that if they're going to put marketing dollars into that and they're going to pay people essentially, yeah, they're mainly benefits. It's not necessarily like direct. I'm sure there's probably some that got direct paid.
Yeah.
But it is a marketing tactic. It doesn't necessarily mean that they deliberately released something that was not up to par.
Fair enough. Okay, so that's my assumption.
Right, but if they're going to pay for that, they also are going to control what you say to some degree, because they're only they're going to dictate that, hey, we only want you to review this, or we only want you to share this. So more than likely in those cases, you're only going to see from the reviews, you're only going to see the finest parts of the game. And I've seen that before, where the trailer to the game looks really awesome, and then you get it and you're like, what the hell is this? They basically put every really good scene in the trailer that lasted 2.5 minutes, and the rest of the game is garbage. But
So, I mean, again, guys, like honestly, and this is something I think we've talked about off screen, and we've talked about a bit. We're either the industry is going through a period right now. It's going through a rough patch, um, and it's looking like a lot of these AAA studios, the larger studios, are. And here's the thing, Greg, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's feeling like a lot of the bullshit's coming out of the publicly traded studios.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm not
Absolutely.
trying to throw shade on studios that become publicly traded, that take on investors, because again, sometimes you need people to invest into the company to push it forward.
Mhm.
Sometimes you have no choice. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and throw shade at that because
You need capital.
that's
And,
yeah, it's legitimate.
you know, money's expensive. Right now, money's expensive. I mean, we went through a period for a long time, um, probably well right after the last financial crash around 2008 2009 up through probably 2019 where money was cheap. I mean, borrowing money was cheap. You could get it for pennies on the dollar, no issues. A lot of your corporate financing was going for 2-3%, and so yeah, cheap money. Um, that's not happening now. Money's not cheap.
Yeah.
Liquid, that liquid capital is tight, and the financial institutions, banks, lending institutions, they don't want to come off what they have. They don't want to extend themselves and take risk in that way. So and a lot of these companies, especially smaller studios or companies that don't have a large cash reserve. I mean, they're kind of limited in their options to raise capital right now. So the only option they have is to sell shares, issue bonds, things like that to bring in new money.
Yep, and it is tight for them. So I get that. And again,
Or
I'm
lay
not
a bunch of
saying
people off.
yeah, or lay a bunch of people. And I'm not saying don't take on capital, don't do what you got to do. But it's really starting to feel like it's primarily the publicly traded studios where they're just they're not making really good decisions. Or at least, I mean, and again, it's not, or rather, the decisions they make are not playing out for them. Maybe they thought it was a good decision at the time, et cetera, but they're not playing out for them. And meanwhile, you got these indie studios, small studios who are, I mean, for the lack of a better way to put it, just putting their nose to the grindstone, communicating with their player base, and getting to work.
Well, it's hard to say in the
And
smaller.
again, my assumption,
Right.
my kind of take on that, on what it appears to be looking like.
A lot of the smaller companies don't get reported on, so you don't really know what's going on there. I mean, what we know, okay, so what is visible is the 20,000 plus layoffs. Does that mean that's a ceiling? Oh, geez, 20,000. No, I'm sure that number is much higher. We just don't see that
Yeah.
number.
Yep. And and here's the thing: we're not even done with the year. I have a feeling it's going to be about 30,000 legitimate layoffs before the year's over. Because remember, we're still forgetting the meanest season of them all, holiday season.
Well, and the roll up to it with all the part-time jobs. So
Yep. Like, and again, that's just in gaming industry. We're going to see a lot of people get, and I hope not. I really do, but again, we know how it plays out. So for those of you who are currently in the industry, those of you who are in a position to make those decisions, make wise decisions, please. Not just for your studio, but for the people who work for you. Because remember, those people who have spent time, effort putting together the games that for you. Don't shit on them like that. For those who are working for the developer, for the guy in the trenches making the games, I wish you guys the best of luck because it's increasingly getting a lot more difficult out there. Now, again, I don't want to be doom and gloom, but gotta be realistic. And the way these studios, some of these studios are moving, hey,
Make some great stuff. That's my stance
yeah,
on the whole thing. Make some great stuff. I mean,
put some good shit together.
yeah, maybe I'm the crazy one, but I mean, there's opportunity there right now, and especially with all the projects that are being scaled back by all the major studios, you don't see, there's not really a lot of big plans for the later part of this year. And I'm not saying it, you whip a good great game together in a couple of months, but I mean, the opportunity is there. So if you have that ability, then hey, at least consider taking the risk and build
Mhm.
something great. It may be your time to shine. Maybe your opportunity right now, as some of these other folks are pulling back, reducing their headcount, canceling projects, or bumping the due dates out for these. Maybe your opportunity to move in and fill that void, release something
Yeah,
really really good.
and and here's another piece that's kind of part of the reason why I think things are looking rough for the industry right now. For those of you who don't know, there is let me see, when was this? This was about last weekish. Say around the first of the month, I believe, first and second of the month, around that time, either the end of July, beginning of August. SAG-AFTRA, for those of you who don't know, it's the Screen Actors Guild. I don't know the rest of that acronym. Basically, it's the union, the governing body of like um, entertainment. You have actors that are part of that. It's kind of like a union essentially for unionization for entertainers, whether it's music, movies, video games. So they have actually gone on strike, um, primarily in the AI and motion capture, or the voice acting and motion capture area. And the reason being is because of AI. Um, we know that AI is now becoming a larger part of the development process for games, be it voice, be it actual development, like developing story, narrative pieces, or developing actual models, in game engines, motion capture stuff. We're starting to use that a lot more, and it's it's a hot button topic primarily because the original creators, the original voice actors, or motion capture, actors, people who are using their body to help capture images and movement, for games, aren't being compensated as they should, um, with regards to that piece, um, and it's caused a lot of them to be a bit disillusioned, kind of disgruntled, which I don't blame them. You're not getting your due, be it in recognition or compensation. I'd be pissed off too, you know. And the biggest piece is that a lot of these studios, since they essentially own the rights to that person's voice or their likeness, they're basically taking these AI algorithms and programs and just recreating it, you know, factory style. Just easy peasy. Don't even have to call them in to do the work. Um, and the fear is that that is going to be commonplace, where now we don't even got to call in Joe Schmo, motion capture to do the thing. We could just use our little AI 3D image here to do it for you, and then put that into into the game or into the movie or TV show. Um, and as we've said before, folks who are leaning into AI, it's a tool, guys. It's a tool that is not perfect by any fucking means. Trust me, it is not perfect by any means. It still has a lot of kinks to work out, but it is a tool. It should not be used to replace actual creatives, whether it's writing, whether it's development, whether it's stunt people who are doing the motions and stuff for you. Those people will always be far and away better than any AI piece. And I'm even going to be up for the debate for that one. Like that is a fact.
The piece that is contrary to the, and I think this, I definitely support the artists. That's the thing. I mean, these are real people that have, probably spent most of, if not their entire life, trying to work on, perfect their talent, do something that they love, and bring something really great to the table to share with all of us. But anime is kind of the contrary piece to the point that you're making right now.
Oh, why do you think that?
Well, I mean, you look at all the, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that really, I mean, anime has really grown to be a huge thing, and
Yeah.
There's a lot of connectivity with the characters in anime at this point as well. And that's now there's still voice pieces in there, things like that. There's still things to be done in that, which could be completely replaced at some point with AI. But I think that's the contrary part to the actual creatives, the actual artists going in and playing a character and doing something, doing the actual acting. And there's a lot of really great anime that's out there, but that's, the digital piece to it. In the past, anime had to be created. I mean, there's people doing the mock-ups, the drawings, and then digitizing that. Potentially, what AI does is replace all of those people that are the back end people that you don't see. You never hear their voice. You never see them. But they're the ones who are probably stand the most to lose by the growing influence of AI. That's to me that's sad. I mean, that's because these are people that are very talented with what they do, and they've built up an industry that has grown to be quite massive.
Yeah.
And now now it's kind of like standing at the edge of the cliff and looking out over the abyss. I mean, what's going to happen? You don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know where you're going to end up. Where what's going to what's going to become of you and your art, not just at the studio where you're at, but to the industry as a whole. This could be that nail in the coffin, or the start of it, where hey, we found an alternative to you guys. And here's the thing, that's been a scare for quite some time now. A lot of people have been worried in multiple industries of that happening. I don't foresee it happening in anytime soon, and I hope it never happens. I hope, again, as we've said here many times on the channel, that people utilize AI as a tool that it's meant to be, as a supplement, not a replacement, a supplement to the talent that's out there, not a replacement for it. Because I'm sorry, AI, and here's the thing, it's not fucking AI. Okay, those programs don't think on their own. We still have to input the what they're learning, what they're being exposed to. We have to give them that. So it's not AI. Okay, this is not some fucking movie where the robot's gonna get up and walk for itself and give itself a name. Not happening.
Not yet.
Not anytime soon. Probably, definitely not in our lifetime, I don't think. Okay? These are tools that learn based on the things that we give it. So utilize it as such. Utilize it as such. Use it as a supplement, not a replacement. Yeah,
Uh,
right, exactly. Writing as well. Thank you for that piece, Harper Young. Harper says it's not artists and such being affected by AI either, though it's affecting writing as well. We have struggles at school level where it's replacing students' own writing and creativity. Yeah, yeah, exactly. You have guys out there, individuals out there who are using that to replace actually writing the thing. They're using AI to write it.
mhm.
And it's concerning. It's concerning on a lot of levels. Primarily, the one that comes to mind for me is the integrity of the art piece. That's the concern for me. It's the integrity of the art and the artist.
Yeah, probably a sad thing for somebody that expresses themselves, draws a piece or paints a piece or whatever it happens to be, and you know later on, I don't know, a month later, you see your piece essentially as part of some AI generated stuff.
Hmm.
That could be very frustrating. Absolutely.
Absolutely. It's even more getting out of hand.
I do agree with the concept. I mean, a while back we had Twain Martin on,
Yes.
and talked with him and the company that he is working with right now in creating new AI systems, with the intention of those systems to be used as a tool, not as a replacement for. Um, and I agree with that. I mean, AI is here to stay. It's not like we're gonna, it's like the telephone, whatever. It's not going anywhere. Or the car, or whatever you want to look at. Um, but definitely, using it responsibly and making sure that we're, for one thing, not flooding the marketplace. Which, I mean, go out on, Drive Through RPG, go out on some of these sites right now and even in the video game industry, there is just this huge amount of AI generated stuff. Put it that way. I'm trying to be nice. Um, that's out there. It's cheap. Absolutely. Well, I mean, what did it cost you to do that? Not much. You put it into a chat GPT or whatever other program you're using, and it kicks out whatever it is that you want to do. You tweak it a little bit, put it out, and sell it. Um,
Yep.
but what did you actually put into that? What did you create with that? Very little. Um, in some cases. I mean, I've tested this. I've bought some stuff off Rob. I mean, I bought
Yeah.
some stuff off of Drive Through, for one, just to look at it, just to see, okay, what is this? And it is so obvious that it is, if not entirely, almost entirely AI generated, that it's disgusting. You look over the product and it's like, what, really? I you know
So this is the best you got.
right, right. um it's sad, but it's there.
So please, for those of you who are working with AI, be mindful of that. Like be ethical, I guess is the best way I can put it. Be ethical
I
about your
think
use of AI.
I think we've beat up on AI for a while now. What else do we
Hmm.
got?
Well, really, I mean that's really it. That's the end of kind of our list of things that have been happening. Relevant to us in the industry.
Right.
You know, um,
Well,
the industry again. The year's not over, so there's going to be plenty more. The big thing, obviously, Gen Con finishing up, D&D, and uh, you know, the TTRPG community. That is one thing that I do want to touch on again. TTRPG community has seen a huge growth in the variety of games. Shadow Dark being one of them by Arcane Library. Um, Brandon Sanderson, for those of you who don't know, has come out. He's a worldwide well-known writer, has come out with his own TTRPG based off the Cosmere, which is basically the conglomeration of the worlds that he's built and written about. They have a
Kickstarter.
TTRPG that's in development. Yep, it's Kickstarter now. I think they opened it up a couple days ago,
Mhm.
and it's already at 5 million funded. So
Well,
it's funded.
In
It's,
the plan for that TTRPG, I'm actually very interested in that TTRPG. Just
me too. Same.
it
Same.
it
I've
it
downloaded the beta test material to take a look at it.
well, it's designed with a unique engine, so a unique system to run by. So it's not using like an open gaming license off a D&D or anything like that, which in a sense can be a little bit of a drawback because it's something that people have to learn a new system. But if if you like the world that he's created, and this is a guy, a writer who has a rather large following. So it's obvious it's going to do well because people love the world that he's created. But the support piece in it, right now, the TTRPG is being created to cover all the aspects that are currently in the world, and the idea is that as new books come out, the TTRPG is going to be updated to encompass those new aspects as well. So
Yes,
that's kind of
that's
exciting.
essentially what he's put out. Yeah, it's gonna be a living, as Brandon said, and as his design team stated, it's gonna be a living world. Meaning, whenever new books are added or not necessarily just new books, but new pieces to the Cosmere, which is again the basically all of Brandon Sanderson's books take place in the same universe at different times and on different planets, stuff like that. But it's all in the same sandbox. But as he comes out with new series to add to that, assumably those pieces will be added to the game, and I think that is a very, very unique take. It's not something that's being done um, in this way. You can make the argument D&D did it. They kind of do it, but there's no artist or there's no writer writing specifically for that, a cohesive world anymore. Because I mean, you have different settings. You have Faerun, you have Dragonlance, you have Eberron. You have different settings, and you have writers within those settings, but they're not writing specifically for D&D. They're just writing for, you know, the Forgotten Realms or stuff like that. Like R.A. Salvatore writes primarily for the Forgotten Realms setting. Who's the Dragonlance? It's
Hickman,
God,
Weiss?
it's Hickman and Weiss. Terry Hickman and Margaret Weiss write for Dragonlance. Which actually, ironic, I think they're actually coming out with something new, and I can't remember if it's new books or if it's new material for D&D or both. I can't remember off the top of my head. I will probably mention that sometime in the next episode of the update log, because that is a big deal. I mean, if for those of you know, Tracy Hickman and Margaret Weiss, they are the creators of Dragonlance, which next to the Forgotten Realms, which was created by Ed Greenwood, Dragonlance is probably the most popular D&D setting.
Well, in
It's
many ways, Dragonlance is the more popular D&D setting. So I mean, the Forgotten Realms piece for the people in the game, because a lot of the content for the game was
created in
plugged
Forgotten
into Forgotten Realms, right? But the story piece that's out there, Gritstone, and
A lot of
who
it is
doesn't know who that
Dragonlance.
is? I mean,
Yeah.
So
Yep, a lot. Yeah. So everyone knows Trist. Everyone knows Bruner Battlehammer, Catti-brie. Like we all know those names. But Dragonlance, far and away, is the larger of the story pieces. The one that kind of lags behind, which is a shame because I kind of liked it. It was Greyhawk, the original
mhm.
setting for D&D.
Well, but there is original setting
There's some.
content that is coming out, and as a matter of
Yeah.
fact, some of the IPs that have been that Trollord Games has been licensed to reprint are they all go right into Greyhawk. So I mean, Greyhawk was the original D&D world. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Yes, it was. It was the original D&D setting
hey,
back in, what was it, first or second edition?
that's, well, first edition advanced D&D. So beyond the
Advanced D&D,
basic
that's
piece.
right.
I don't.
Yeah,
It may have been talked about in the. I don't remember. I haven't. I
haven't played it in a
got
while.
got a copy of it. Yeah, but it may have been talked about in there as Greyhawk being the world that everything was set in. But it definitely with first edition advanced D&D, that really, because they really expanded into, okay, now this is the world that you live in type of thing,
Mhm.
and that was huge. So I do have one more thing I'm going to throw out there, and yes, I am going to go here because
Okay.
it's it's interesting to me, and I just want to share it. And a group of actors actually has come together and introduced a new actors guild. Okay.
Oh,
Um,
okay, that I didn't know.
Oh yeah, and some of these actors are like Mel Gibson, Harrison Ford, um, some bigger names out there. A lot of
Mhm.
really interesting titles behind their names, such as Star Wars, Braveheart. Just a lot of stuff that's out there, and their Actors Guild that they have formed is also being labeled as and this is their choice, the non woke Actors Guild.
Interesting.
Hmm.
It's
I
interesting.
found it
Interesting
really
term for it.
interesting. I mean, it's
Yeah.
I not biased on one way or the other, but I definitely like the concept, and I think it's about time that there's more representation on that side of the story when it comes to Hollywood and movies and acting. Um, and there's good content on both sides of that line, but there hasn't been representation for people who really just want to produce content that doesn't have all of the social
Social
normalization
agendas.
crap going on, right?
Yeah.
So I like that. I think that's great. I look
Mhm.
forward to seeing what actually comes out of it.
I agree. I really am looking forward to seeing what comes out of there because here's the thing, and again, not to bring in politics or anything like that or any of the social stuff going on now. Like people don't play games, people don't go to the movies, people don't read books to read up on current events or current
Mhm.
problems. We don't. We do that shit to escape, to look at and digest something different. Not the same shit that we can turn on the TV and watch. And not only that, but the only agenda that you should be having within creating your piece of content, in my opinion, is creating a good piece of content that tells a story.
Mhm.
Now, if the story happens to coincide with some things, if that's your goal, fine. But be prepared for some backlash on that because if people really wanted to digest that kind of content, they would just turn on the TV. They would just turn on the TV.
It's important. Creative license is important,
Yeah,
and it's this isn't a one. I hate to, because you can't help but talk about it in a sense of sides, and
yeah.
it's not sides. It's not sides at all. It's just simply that freedom of expression. Now, certain things are definitely going to be a lot less palatable than others. Um, but does that mean that we should just, oh, don't tell stories that have that in there? You know what I mean?
No, absolutely
No,
not.
no. Um, because there's a lot of really great stories out there that have things that would be considered questionable by a large portion of the population. It doesn't take away from the story unless you overdo it. If
Hmm.
you completely one side the story and create this bias in the story one way or another way, then yeah, okay. But I'm saying that, but honestly, there is a story out there, and I don't know, I forget what the name of it is, but it's I forget what the name of the movie is, but it's kind of a characterization flip, um, and it paints the world, kind of a U.S. landscape, but it's John Travolta stars in it, and it essentially flips the idea, the social idea. So the social norm in our country is accepted as being that the social elites is a pretty much white club. Okay, and I'm not arguing that point. Um, but what this movie does is it flips it around and makes the social elites in society an almost entirely and it's specific to African Americans being that club, and the these other folks are all the people who are the poor, basically. Um,
Mm.
I forget the name of the movie. I'm gonna have to find that, but I think it's a fantastic watch, and it really does make you think about what really some aspects in our society, for one, that we should look at and really
Oh yeah,
pay attention to, because not saying it's a horrible situation overall, but there are some things that in our society that we should really look at and ask some questions about it, if nothing else. Why is it like that? And is it because of some of the very things that people take offense to? Maybe it is. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there and let people know, hey, there's now a actors guild that labels themselves as non woke. So
interesting. So I wonder why they want to slap that label on it and not just let their actions speak for themselves. Just my opinion,
I
though.
think a lot of them, over the past few years, have been more or less blacklisted because of their social standpoints.
True. Yeah,
So,
that is very very true. Yeah, I can attest to, in terms of not again being part of it, but I can, yeah, I can see that.
mhm.
But I mean, aside from that, yeah, I think that's the end of episode 63 of the update log. Thank you guys for joining us. Tomorrow, Greg.
Tomorrow we will be doing
Yeah.
episode 8 of the BOR. So our current Cyberpunk: The Dark Future stream. So that'll be right here on the Razmentaz channel at 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. There are only 2 more episodes of that story left, so make sure that you catch them so you can kind of see what the conclusion is going to be, how this is all going to end out. Our story with the BOR agents, and I don't want to say anything more about that. They're in a tight situation right now. They just kind of
Yep.
got ran out of their home, and they're maybe facing some people who do not have the best of intentions for them. Put it that way. We are going to meet some new characters in this episode, though. There's going to be a new character that's introduced, and this character is a tie-in to a story that we have been working on. I ran a 4-part for GaryCon 2024. It's basically episode 1 broken into 4 parts of what we're calling Beyond the Wall. It is a cyberpunk story. And part 2 is going to be you're only going to be able to get it at GaryCon. So if you make it to GaryCon, get
Mhm.
there. I'd love to meet you, see you at my table, and play some games with you. Have some fun. Um, but part 2 is going to have this character in it that we're going to introduce tomorrow night. So we have a brand new player who's going to be playing that character, and we'll see. I think he's going to bring some awesome things to it. So
Yeah.
that's that.
All right, and that is that for update log episode 63. Thank you guys for coming in. I wish you guys a great rest of your week. Again, we're at the middle point now. See you guys tomorrow night at 8 o'clock again for episode 9 of BOR. And that's it, guys. Adios.
I'm gonna rate us into somebody tonight. And anybody have a preference in the audience? Where would you like to go?
I personally would like to go say hello to. Let's go say hi to Stormy D.
Stormy D. Is he on?
He is.
Okay. I didn't see him in here. But yeah, that's a great idea. Let's go see Stormy. And wow, he doesn't come up. And there he is. All right, there we go. We will run over and see Stormy D. Thank you all for coming in here tonight, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow night and next week on the update log.
Yep.